Hey guys. This is part 5 of What If Naruto Was Azula's Bodyguard. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start.
We are pain, that's all. We are God.
Chapter 11, Emotions and Secrets. Location: Earth Kingdom. The sandstorm had blown in, mixing wind with sand. The group stood on the dune next to the tower leading to Wan Shirtong's library. Ino had managed to heal Akela. She told Sokka to make sure the wolf got a lot of rest and to take it easy. He was glad Akela was okay. Aang, however, was another story. How could you let them take Appa? He demanded of Toph. Why didn't you stop them? He was enraged, and he wanted to blame someone for the loss of his sky bison. I couldn't, she protested, trying to defend herself. The library was sinking. You guys were still inside and you could have come to get us. I could have saved him. She was too busy stopping the library from being buried, Aang, and you know it, Shikamaru told him. If she had to come to get us, we would be dead and Appa would still have been taken. But he could already tell that Aang didn't hear him. He's right, Toph said. I can hardly feel any vibrations out here. The sandbenders snuck up on me and there wasn't time for. You just didn't care. Aang cut her off. You never liked Appa. You wanted him gone. Aang, stop it, Katara told him. She could see that he was angry and tried to keep him calm. You know Toph did all she could. She saved our lives. Our lives won't mean much if we stay here in this storm, Asuma noted. The sand swirled all around them. If it got any worse, the only people he knew who could get out of it would be shinobi from Suna. That's all any of you guys care about, yourselves. The Avatar yelled, lashing out at anyone who was nearby. You don't care whether Appa is okay or not. Knock it off, Aang. Sokka barked, not sounding like his usual goofy self. Instead, he sounded like he had authority and knew how to use it. You're not the only one who's angry here. Or did you forget that Akela tried to fight the sandbenders off and got hurt in the process? Shut up, Sokka, he yelled back. Akela's not the one who got captured. Appa was. Guys, calm down, Katara told the two of them, trying to play peacemaker. We can't afford to be fighting now. Aang stomped away from the group. I'm going after Appa, he declared. He opened up his gilder and flew off. Aang, wait. But he was already gone, flying off into the desert. That kind of attitude would have gotten him severely punished if he was a shinobi, Shikamaru stated. He could already imagine the Hokage sending the air nomad flying through a wall. He's not a shinobi, Shikamaru, Choji told his friend. He could see the same thing, but he also knew it probably would never happen. Still doesn't mean he can go and do something like that. He left us here. If any Konoha shinobi did that without a particularly good reason, they would be treated like scum when they returned. In any case, we better start walking, Katara told everyone. We're the only people who know about the solar eclipse. We have to get that information to Ba Sing Se. They all nodded in agreement and walked off in silence, going back into the desert. Zuko and Iroh rode on the ostrich horse. Ever since he figured out how to breathe lightning, Zuko had practiced trying to use it. He soon figured out that using it wasn't the problem, generating it was. The normal way to generate lightning was to move your arms in a circular motion, creating the lightning on your fingertips and discharging it from there. Considering that he was breathing the lightning, both he and his uncle agreed that the movements of the hands were not necessary. Eventually, they figured out that for Zuko to generate the lightning, he had to imagine himself and then break it down into his yin and his yang, then bring them back together. Once that was figured out, Zuko had to practice the imaging. He had made better timing after some practice, but it still took him a little while to do the entire process, which made the breath of lightning a risky move in combat. He also did the imaging practice while moving, but it was slower, as his mind also had to deal with how the flow of combat went. And so, they rode on. Feeling that they should stop, Iroh began to make fake sounds of pain while clutching his left shoulder. Maybe we should make camp, Zuko finally said. It was obvious that's what his uncle wanted him to do. No please, Iroh told him. Don't stop just for me. He continued to make the fake sounds of pain until Zuko finally stopped the ostrich horse. He hopped down from the saddle and sat down on a nearby rock while his nephew attended to the ostrich horse. The ostrich horse turned its head and gave a low cry of warning, making Zuko move into a fire-bending stance. What now? Iroh asked with tried exasperation. His question was soon answered when they surrounded by 5 Komodo rhinos. The thing was the riders weren't all wearing the same uniform. Colonel Monk, he said as he stood up from the rock. What a pleasant surprise. If you're surprised that we're here, then the Dragon of the West has lost a few steps, the colonel said. Though I'm not surprised the scarred dragon didn't hear us approaching until it was too late. The brat is still wet behind the ears. His voice was filled with scorn as he said those words. The 5 riders prepared themselves for a fight. You know these guys? Zuko asked his uncle, ignoring the insult thrown at him. Sure, Iroh told him. Colonel Monk and the rough rhinos are legendary. Each one is a different kind of weapons specialist. They are also a very capable singing group. And frankly, he preferred the singing to the fighting. We're not here to give a concert. We're here to apprehend fugitives, the colonel told them. Although, I would appreciate it if you two would just surrender. We are feeling generous today, after redeeming ourselves in Kozan. Zuko's eyebrows were raised when Colonel Monk mentioned Kozan. What happened there? Surprisingly, it was Vatcher who spoke first. If you did not know already, we barely succeeded in defending the colony from an incoming Earth Kingdom army, and the Avatar showed up at the same time. It was also funny when Governor Shun told us that the Avatar had an argument with the Earth Kingdom colonel on how the colony would be taken, Ojidi said, laughing lightly. Zuko and Iroh looked at each other in confusion. Why would the Avatar argue with someone who was supposed to be his ally? Luckily, Lord Naruto came up with a plan to defeat them. That's nice, but enough chit-chat. Colonel Monk turned the rhino back towards the 2 travelers. Well? Will you two surrender or not? Would you like some tea first? I'd love some, Iroh asked Colonel Monk, ignoring his question in the process. He looked to another of the riders. How about you, Kachi? I make you as a Jasmine man? Am I right? Enough stalling, round them up, ordered the colonel. The rider twirling the chains threw them at the 2. Iroh kicked them away, sending them wrapping around another rhino's legs. Moving forward in a roll to dodge a fire arrow and ball of fire, he smacked the rhino with chains wrapped around its leg on its back, sending it off. That took care of 2 of the riders, the one on the rhino and the one who threw the chains. Vatcher fired off 1 arrow at Zuko, which he chopped in half and returned fire with a small fireball. It went the wood of the bow and snapped the string, rendering him useless. The colonel stepped in and bent fire at Iroh, who deflected the fire and sent some of his own back at him. Meanwhile, Zuko moved around to the rear of the rhino and jumped onto its back, behind the colonel, who he sent flying from the saddle with a stream of fire. Iroh went for the ostrich horse and got back on. He rode forward past Zuko, allowing him to jump on the back. They fled with the 5th rider in pursuit. He threw a bomb in front of them and pulled back as it exploded. Unbeknownst to him, they made it through the explosion intact and kept on riding. It's nice to see old friends, Iroh commented as they got away. Too bad you don't have any old friends that want to attack you, Zuko said. All they ever seemed to meet was people who wanted to either kill them or capture them. He contemplated that thought as it made sense to him. Old friends that don't want to attack me, he muttered to himself. Katara led the group through the desert. They were hot and thirsty. Team Asuma was a little better off, but they weren't usually the kind who lived in the desert. That was Shinobi who hailed from Suna. Sokka tried to use Momo as a shade, but Toph ran into him, knocking Momo off his head. Can't you watch where you're? He began to say, only to remember that she couldn't see well in the desert. No, she told him. Right, sorry. If I wasn't roasting here, I would find that funny, Choji stated. He had removed the metal plating from his clothes so that it wouldn't roast him any more than he already was. But he was still sweating like a stuck pig. Come on guys, we've got to stick together, Katara told them. Sokka tried to pull himself from Toph. If I sweat anymore, I don't think sticking together will be a problem. Toph finally got them separated by pushing him off, making him fall to the ground. Katara, can I have some water? She asked. Okay, but we've got to try to conserve it. She looked over at Team Asuma. Do you guys want some? Ino fished out a canteen. We brought our own water, so we'll be fine. Katara nodded. She bent the water out of her pouch and then separated it into 4 small orbs, 1 each for Sokka, Toph, Momo, and Akela. They let the water go into their mouths and drank it. Didn't you use this on the swamp guy? Sokka asked as the water went down his throat. He was certain that she did. It does taste swampy, Toph admitted. I'm sorry, it's all we have, Katara told them. If they drank all their water now, they probably wouldn't make it. Choji said. Could I borrow your canteen? He sounded a little embarrassed when he spoke. What happened to yours? She asked. Wasn't it full? Yeah, about that. He lifted his canteen up and held it upside down. Not a single drop of water came out of it. You drank it all already. Come on, an Akimichi doesn't do well in the desert. I was thirsty. He tried to explain himself. Well, you're none getting any of mine, she retorted, putting her canteen away from his sight. Hey, look over there, Sokka said. Across from them was a cactus. Oh, thank Kami, Choji said. He rushed over to the cactus and sliced off a portion with a kunai. Choji, I wouldn't drink that, Asuma warned him. It was never a good idea to drink something like that. You'd have no idea what would happen. What's the harm, Asuma-sensei? He asked as he drank the water inside the cactus. Want one, Sokka? He offered the tribesman, holding up another piece of the cactus. Sokka took the offered portion and drank it while Choji and Momo had more than one serving of the cactus water. You guys should have some, Choji offered another portion of the cactus to the group. It's not that bad, actually, Sokka agreed, having finished one portion. I don't know, Katara said as she watched her brother reach for another piece. Choji's eyes suddenly dilated. You know you want the cactus juice, he told them, gesturing to the piece of cactus in his hand. It's free. Free cactus juice for everyone. Okay, that's it. You're done, Ino told him as she took the piece of cactus away from and spilled its contents onto the desert floor. Maybe she should have let him drink from her canteen. Sokka, are you okay? Katara asked him. He was just standing there, like nothing was happening. I think so. I only had one portion, he answered, dropping the full piece in his hand. He looked around, blinking his eyes a lot. His gaze finally settled on Toph. One question though, why is Toph on fire? I'm not, the blind earthbender told him. Above their heads, Momo was flying around in circles, going faster and faster until he suddenly did a dive bomb into the sand. Can I get some of that cactus? Katara picked up Momo. I don't think that's a good idea. Come on, we need to find again. They all started off before realizing Choji hadn't moved from where he stood. Asuma quickly grabbed him and started pulling him along. Sokka kept looking. Why are we underwater? He asked, his pupils dilated. All he could see was water everywhere. We're not underwater, Sokka, Katara told him. All she could see was a hot desert. Yes, we are. I can see fishes, Choji said, pointing off to the distance. He tried to get loose from Asuma's grip. Come back, fishes, I'm hungry and you are dinner. Choji, you need to calm down, Asuma told him, holding him back. But I want the fishes. Aang flew over the dunes of the desert, looking for his sky bison. He took out the bison whistle and blew. He saw nothing reacting. Appa? He called out. He landed on a dune and tried again. Appa? Again, nothing reacted. No, he whispered as a wave of sadness took over him. The sadness quickly turned into rage. No! He slammed his staff into the dune beneath him. He bent the air around as well, causing a huge cloud of sand to fly up. They crested a sand dune when they saw the giant cloud of sand, which was beginning to look like a mushroom. What is that? Katara asked. What? What is what? Toph asked, looking in the other direction. She had felt something blow past her, but that was it. Sokka was also facing the other way. I don't know, but I'm not going to look at it, he told her. If he looked, he was certain he would say something stupid. It's a giant mushroom, Choji said, excited. He wanted to go to the mushroom but was held back by his sensei. Let's keep moving, Katara told everyone. I hope Aang's okay, she said, mostly to herself. They hadn't seen the airbenders since he left. Asuma dragged his student away. Come on, Choji, we have to go. No! Come back, mushroom! I love you! You are my one and only! The Akimichi cried as he grasped the air in the direction of the mushroom-shaped cloud. You declared your love to a non-existent shark 5 minutes ago, Ino told him, helping her sensei pull him away. What a drag, Shikamaru said as he joined in the dragging. Master Yu and Xin Fu had been hunting Toph for some time now. Her father had promised them an incredibly good reward if they brought her back, so they reluctantly worked together to find her. Their hunt had led them to the Misty Palms oasis. They started asking the residents if they had seen her. Yeah, a little barefoot blind girl and her friends passed through here a few days ago, a man told them. Did they give you any indication of where they were headed? Master Yu asked. Maybe you could give me a little incentive? The man rubbed his fingers together, giving the hint that he wanted money for the information. Are you suggesting that I break your fingers? Threatened Xin Fu. The man whipped his hand around his back. They went into the desert, he told the two of them hurriedly. Too bad there's almost no chance they survived. That's okay, 'cause she's wanted dead or alive. No, she's not. Master Yu argued as the man who gave them the information backed away. I'm certain her father wants her alive. Hey, look. Xin Fu noticed something on a nearby board. Fire Nation wanted posters. So? He wasn't sure where this was going. One of the posters was of Zuko and Iroh. Xin Fu turned and saw the same two men walking into the cantina. So, look who's here. They had been given the opportunity to make some easy cash. They continued without further incident. By now, the sun was setting, and the temperature was getting cooler. A shadow flew over them. When they looked up, they saw it was Aang. He landed behind them and stayed there. I'm sorry, Aang, Katara told him as she ran up to meet him. I know it's hard for you right now, but we need focus on getting out of here. She put a reassuring hand on his shoulder. He shrugged it off. What's the difference? We won't survive without Appa. We all know it. I could say that I knew this would eventually happen and that I told you so, Sokka said to Aang and Katara, earning him a glare from the airbender. But considering the fact that I may not be able to follow the ensuring argument, I won't. Come on, Aang, Katara told him. We can do this if we work together. Right, Toph? She asked the blind earthbender. As far as I can feel, we're trapped in a giant bowl of sand pudding, she answered. I got nothing. Sokka, any ideas on how to find Ba Sing Se? Asked Katara. If there was anyone who could come up with a plan, it would be her brother. I'll let you know when I can think straight again, he told her as he sat next to Akela. He kept shaking his head slightly, like he was trying to get sand out of his ear. How about you guys? She asked Team Asuma. Do you think if we ask nicely, the circle birds will let me eat them? Choji asked, pointing to the sky. Shikamaru looked upwards. Those aren't birds, Choji, he told his friend. Those are. It's too troublesome to figure out what those are. Katara looked upwards to see what they were looking at. Circling above them were buzzard wasps, 4 of them. It was like they were just waiting for the group to throw in the towel, so they could feast. Then she looked at the group. Aang was sulking, Toph was almost falling asleep, Momo was on his back moving his paw in a circle, Sokka sat next to Akela trying to clear his head, and Team Asuma was trying to convince Choji that there wasn't a giant boar with a banner that said, Please, Choji, I beg of you. Eat me. Tied between its tusks on the next dune over. She gave an exasperated sigh. They weren't going to throw the towel in yet. We're getting out of this desert, and we're going to do it together, she told them. Aang, get up, everyone, hold hands. They did as they were told. We can do this. We have to, she told them. They continued walking, this time by holding hands. Akela walked alongside Sokka. Ino looked back at Shikamaru, who was at the end of the line. Shikamaru, what are you doing to Momo? She asked her teammate. In his free hand, Shikamaru held Momo by the tail, allowing him to flap his wings without flying away from the group. Keeping him entertained, he answered with a straight face. Momo looked like he was enjoying himself. They kept walking until the sun had almost set. They had also stopped holding hands. I think we should stop for the night, Katara finally said. When she said that, everyone pretty much collapsed. Is there any more water? Toph asked. She was thirsty and she wanted a drink. This is the last of it, the waterbender told her. Everyone can have a little drink. She bent the water out of her pouch and held it in the air. Momo leapt for the precious liquid, splattering all over the sand. Way to go, Momo, Sokka said, looking at the lemur. You've killed us all. No, he hasn't, Katara told her brother. She reached for the soggy sand and bent the remaining water out of it, saving some of it. Right, bending, forgot about that. He was starting to wonder if the cactus juice was really getting to him. Then he saw something that caught his attention. Katara handed the pouch to Toph so she could take a sip. Sokka, let me see the things you got from the library, she said, only to find he was staring off at a nearby sand dune. Sokka, you okay? Katara, I need you to hit me, he told her. She was caught off guard. What? I need you to hit me upside the head so I can stop seeing the Kyoshi warriors doing a group striptease. She didn't even hesitate, whacking him hard across the back of his head. He went face first into the sand. Thank you, he said as he brought his head out of the sand. You're welcome, she replied as she took the bag from his slumped shoulder. She sat down and took out one of the scrolls. It doesn't matter, Aang told her dejectedly. None of those will tell us where Appa is. He felt a sweat on his own head. Looking to see who did it, he saw Sokka, who was having a moment of clarity, standing above him. Listen up, Aang, he said. I know that you and Appa have been through a lot and I know you hate the fact that you can't find him. But face the facts, Appa is not our primary concern anymore. Getting out of here alive is. Stop moping and help us out. Aang gripped his staff and rose from where he was sitting. That's enough. Asuma barked out, standing between them, stopping the fight before it even started. Aang, Sokka is right, we need to worry about leaving this desert alive first. Sokka, remember that Aang lost his closest friend. You don't need to remind him of it every time you can. Aang walked away. Whatever, he grumbled as he sat down a little further away from Sokka. Look guys, this way we can find which way Boss Sing say, Katara told them as she held a constellation map in her hands. We can use the stars to guide us. That way we can travel at night when it's cool and rest during the day. She looked back and saw everyone was almost asleep. Just try to get some sleep. We'll start again in a few hours. Zuko looked around the cantina and wasn't impressed by what he saw. No one here is going to help us, he told Iroh. These people just look like filthy wanderers. So do we, Iroh pointed out. That was the whole idea. Then he noticed something. Ah, this is interesting. Zuko followed his uncle's line of sight until he was looking an old man at a pie show table. I think I found our friend. You brought us here to gamble on pie show? Zuko demanded in a hushed voice. He couldn't his uncle would do something like that at a time like this. Iroh stood up from the table. I don't think this is a gamble. He walked over to the pie show table and Zuko followed. On the other side of the cantina, Xian Fu and Master Yu were watching their every move. Let's take them now, Xian Fu said, rising from his chair. If they caught them, it would be easy cash. Master Yu put a restraining hand on him. This place is full of desperate characters. If they find out we're collecting a bounty, we may have to fight them just to keep our prize. Patience, he told Xian Fu. The Earth Rumble host sat back down and continued to watch. May I have this game? Iroh asked the old man as he approached the table. The guest has the first move, he answered. Iroh sat down and placed a tile in the middle of the board. I see you favor the White Lotus Gambit, his opponent commented. Not many still cling to the ancient ways. He made a gesture with his hands. Those who do can always find a friend, Iroh replied, making the same gesture. Then let us play. The two of them began the game. The only thing Zuko could do at this point was grab a chair and wait. The two players went back and forth, slowly at first but also gradually picking up the pace. As they played the game, Zuko realized that they were placing the tiles so that they made a larger design. The two players placed their last pieces down at the same time, completing the design. Welcome, brother, the old man said. The White Lotus opens wide to those who know our secrets. What are you old gasbags talking about? Zuko finally asked them. They weren't making any sense to him, at least. I've always tried to tell you that Pie Show is more than just a game, Iroh told his nephew cryptically, fiddling with a tile between his fingers. Xian Fu got impatient. I'm not waiting all night for these geezers to finish yapping, he declared as he stood up from his seat. Master Yu simply followed. It's over! Xian Fu shouted at Zuko and Iroh as he made his towards them. You two fugitives are coming with me. The old man got in his path. I knew it, he said loudly. You two are wanted criminals with a big bounty on your heads. Thanks to his time in Akawan, Zuko realized what the old man was doing and kept quiet. You think you're going to capture them and collect all that gold? The old man asked the two bounty hunters. Gold? Asked someone. The attention of everyone in the cantina was now on Xian Fu and Master Yu. Maybe we shouldn't, Master Yu suggested to Xian Fu, who only smirked in answer. Sure enough, a brawl started up. While Xian Fu and Master Yu dominated the others, they didn't notice that the old man, Zuko, and Iroh had left the cantina. They had slept for some hours before Katara woke them up again. Come on, get up. She shook Sokka awake. We need to go. I'm up, he told her as he sat up. Akela opened his eyes as he rose from where he slept next to Sokka. The both of them stood up shakily. Toph also sat up and smacked her lips. Yesterday my mouth tasted like mud, she said. Now it just tastes like sand. I never thought I'd miss the taste of mud so much. That was a weird thing all by itself. Speaking of mud, Choji said as Team Asuma woke up. Have you guys ever wondered what tauntaun would taste like? Choji, if I were you, Asuma began, I'd never utter that phrase again. Those who tried to eat the pig risked Shizun's, Tsunade's, or Kami forbid, Tauntaun's displeasure and anger. That was a fate he wished on no one. Katara walked over to Aang. I'm awake, he told her as she was about to wake him. I couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Appa and where the bison might be. Well, we need to get moving if we want to get out of this sand pit, she said to him. Aang saw something flying past the full moon that looked almost like his sky bison. Appa? He cried in joy. Sokka looked up. I don't see Appa, he said before he narrowed his eyes at the moon. But why is Princess Yu trying to fish for stars? The moon is made of cheese, Choji declared. Can I have some? He asked his teammates, naked longing evident in his voice. No, Ino told him firmly. Everyone, minus Choji, looked more closely at it. It's just a cloud, Katara said before dropping her head. She immediately brought back up. Wait. A cloud? She took the pouch off her back and held out to Aang. Here, fly up and bend the water from the cloud into my pouch, she told him. He yanked the pouch out of her hands, opened his gilder, and took off. It took him 2 passes through the cloud to get all the water. He threw the pouch at Katara as he landed back on the dune. She investigated the pouch. Wow, there's hardly any in here. At that point, he lost his temper. I'm sorry, okay, he yelled. It's a desert could, I did all I could. What's anyone else doing? What are you doing? He pointed his gilder staff at Katara. Trying to keep everyone together, she answered quietly. She opened the constellation map again. Let's just get moving. We need to head this direction. She knew that he was mad, but they had to get out of the desert first. They started walking again, until Toph tripped and fell down. Crud! I am so sick of not feeling where I'm going, she said as she rubbed foot. And what idiot buried a boat in the middle of the desert? That was probably one of the more stupid things someone could have done. There's a boat here because someone wanted to fish, Choji said with excitement. You see? I knew there were fishes out here. Let's find them, he told his teammates. Calm down, Choji, Asuma told him. A boat? Asked Katara as she went to check what Toph had hit. Believe me, I kick it hard enough to feel plenty of vibrations, the blind earthbender grumbled. Her foot was still stinging from the pain. Katara backed away so that Aang could step forward. He bent the air to blow away the sand covering the hidden object. When the sand cleared, it revealed a sand sailor. It's one of the gilders the sandbenders used. Katara climbed aboard the helm. And look, it's got a compass on it. I bet it can point us out of here. She tapped the compass to make sure it was working. Aang, you can bend a breeze so we can sail it. We're going make it. Sokka stared off into the distance. I could be hallucinating again, but I think Naruto is about 2 dunes behind us, he announced, getting everyone's attention. Asuma looked in Sokka's direction. I don't see anything. I think you're hallucinating. Okay, just making sure. They all climbed aboard and started off. After getting away from the cantina, Zuko and Iroh followed the old man in a building that was apparently a flower store. It is an honor to welcome such a high-ranking member of the Order of the White Lotus, the old man said, bowing his head before Iroh. Being a Grand Master, you must know so many secrets. The old man and Iroh walked to the back of the store with Zuko following them. Now that you've played Pai's show, are you gonna do some flower arranging? Or is someone in this club going to offer some real help? He asked the 2 men. He was failing to see the point in all this. You must forgive my nephew, Iroh told the old man. He is not an initiate and has little love for the cryptic arts. The old man knocked on the door leading into the back. The peephole opened halfway, revealing a man's face. Who knocks at the garden gate? He asked. One who has eaten the fruit and tasted its mysteries, Iroh answered. The door opened, Iroh and the old man walked through. Zuko followed, but the door was closed in his face. The peephole opened and Iroh looked at his nephew. I'm afraid it's members only. Wait out here, he told Zuko. The peephole closed. Zuko took a step back and waited, taking a sniff at a nearby flower. Doesn't smell too bad, he thought to himself. The sand sailor flew on through the desert. Aang was driving it via a continuous airstream at the sail. Katara looked at the compass. The needle on this compass doesn't seem to be pointing north according to my charts, she said as she double-checked the constellation map. Don't worry about it, Sokka as he sat behind her, holding Momo against the wind. Akela was sleeping next to him. Don't fight the journey's path, just go with it. What? He shook his head. Sorry, even I'm not sure what that meant. At least I'm better off than Choji. He pointed to Team Asuma, who were holding Choji down and telling him that there was not a barbecue restaurant out in the desert that was having an all-you-can-eat buffet. Katara looked back at where the sand sailor was going and saw a big rock formation. That's what the compass is pointing to. That giant rock, it must be the magnetic center of the desert. A rock? Asked Toph. Yes. Let's go. She wanted to feel solid earth beneath her feet again. Maybe we can find some water there, Katara suggested. They urgently needed more water. Maybe we can find some sandbenders, Aang said to himself. They rowed towards the big rock. By the time they reached it, the sun rising. They climbed to the top to get a better view of the desert. Ah, finally, solid ground, Toph said as she fell to the ground and made a rock angel out of the ground. The top of the rock had tunnels leading inward. The group decided to head into one of the tunnels. The tunnel was covered in some form of yellow goo. Sokka took a deep breath. I think my head is starting to clear out the cactus juice, he said. I think so too, Choji agreed. And look. He picked up some of the yellow goo, eat it, and then immediately spat it back out. Tastes like beef gone bad, he said before groaning. Oh, I feel woozy. You've hallucinating on cactus juice all day, and then you just lick something you find stuck to the wall of a cave. Ino demanded angrily. I was hungry. You're in a kimchi. You're always hungry. Speaking of which, do you have any food I can eat? No. Toph walked down the cave with her hand on the wall. I don't think this is a normal cave. This was carved by something, she told them. Yeah, look at the shape, Aang agreed. He could see that the shape was not natural in design. There's something buzzing in here, something that's coming for us, Toph announced. They all saw what coming for them once she said those words. They all ran back out of the tunnel to avoid the buzzard wasps that were coming out of the tunnels in force. They were soon surrounded by the creatures. One came near Aang and he blew it back with a blast of air. One landed on a rock near Toph, who sent it flying by bending the rock upwards. Another one flew between Toph and Sokka, so Toph bent a rock up and threw it at where she thought the buzzard wasp was. It landed in front of Sokka, a little too close for comfort. What are you doing? That rock almost crushed me, he told her. Sorry. I can't tell where they are in the air, she replied. Another buzzard wasp flew past them. I got this one, he told her. He ran forward and swung his machete around wildly. Sokka, there's nothing there, Katara told him. He stopped swinging and looked around. He hadn't hit any buzzard wasps, just air. I guess my head's not as clear as I thought. You said it, Choji agreed as he rubbed his head. Ran into the wall? The tribesman asked him. He just nodded. We need to get out of here. I'm completely out of water to bend, Katara said. Everyone heard Momo give a surprised screech. They turned to see Momo in the clutch of a buzzard wasp. Momo! Cried Aang as the buzzard wasp flew away. I'm not losing anyone else out here. He ran to the ledge, opened his Gilder staff and took off. Come on, we're going down, Katara told everyone. They began to climb down the rock but the buzzard wasps were following them. Toph, shoot a rock right there, Katara told her, pointing in the direction she wanted. Toph bent a chunk of rock up in front of her. Fire! Ordered the waterbender. She shot the rocks at the incoming buzzard wasp, sending it down to the ground. Yeah, you got it! Sokka cheered. She got it right? He asked Katara, not sure if he was hallucinating or not. Yes, she answered. Now let's move. They kept moving down the rock, still trying to avoid the buzzard wasps. Meanwhile, Aang flew after the buzzard wasp that held Momo. He flew downwards to get under the buzzard wasp. Once that was done, he flipped over, bent a stream of air at the creature, making it lose its grip on Momo. The flying lemur fell through the air but managed to recover. Aang wasn't satisfied by that alone. He landed on the sand and sent an air stream at the fleeing buzzard wasp. It hit the creature, sending crashing down into the sand. Aang glared at the fallen buzzard wasp and then walked away. Back at the rock, the group had almost made it to the bottom, but the buzzard wasps had been hounding them all the way down. On your left, Katara told Toph. She responded by bending a chunk at a buzzard wasp. A buzzard wasp got close, but Asuma fought it off with his chakra blades. I don't will be able to last much longer here, he warned. It was then, almost like someone heard him, the surrounding sand was upheaved into the air. It sent the buzzard wasps back into their caves. When the sand cleared, everyone saw that the ones who saved them were the sandbenders, several of them. Aang landed in front of the group. He had found who he was looking for. Zuko had drifted off into sleep. When the door to the back opened, he immediately moved into a fire-bending stance. What's going on? Is the club meeting over? He asked as he moved out of the stance. Everything is taken care of, Iroh told him as he bowed to the old man, who bowed in return. We're heading to Ba Sing Se. Ba Sing Se, repeated Zuko. Why would we go to the Earth Kingdom capital? That was probably the worst place to be in right now, especially if they weren't from the Earth Kingdom. The city is filled with refugees, the old man explained. No one will notice two more. We can hide in plain sight there, Iroh clarified. And it's the safest place in the world from the Fire Nation. Even I couldn't break through to the city. The door to the shop opened. I have the passports for our guests, a young man said. But there are two men out on the street, looking for them. Zuko and Iroh looked through the front door's peephole. They saw Xian Fu and Master Yi showing their wanted poster and asking people if they had seen them. What are you doing in our land with a sandbender sailor? The leader of the sandbenders demanded of the group. From the looks of it, you stole it from the Hami tribe. Sokka felt Akela tense up by his side. What's the matter, Akela? He asked in a whisper. The wolf looked at him, looked back at the sandbenders and then pawed his nose while his tail drooped. The tribesman got the message immediately. You mean it was one of them? Akela nodded in acknowledgement. We found the sailor abandoned in the desert. We're traveling with the Avatar, Katara explained as she gestured towards Aang. The leader's eyes widened slightly. He knew who that was. Our bison was stolen, and we have to get to Ba Sing Se. You dare accuse our people of theft while you ride in on a stolen sand sailor? A younger sandbender demanded. Toph paid closer attention. She had heard that voice before somewhere. Quiet, Gashian, barked the sandbender leader. No one accused our people of anything. If what they say is true, we must give them hospitality. That was the law that every sandbender tribe held to. No one ever broke the law of hospitality. Sorry, father, Gashian apologized. He knew the law as well. Toph's eyes widened at the voice. I recognized the son's voice, she whispered to Katara. He's the one that stole Appa. Are you sure? Katara asked. They had to be careful and not accuse the wrong person. I never forget a voice. However, the two of them had forgotten that Aang was right behind them and could hear every bit of the hushed conversation. He marched forward with angry steps. You stole Appa, he accused the son, pointing his staff at him. Where is he? What did you do to him? They're lying. They're the thieves, Gashian protested, trying to deflect the blame. Aang responded by swinging his staff at one of the sand sailors, bending an air stream at it and destroying it. Where is my bison? He demanded. The door to the flower store opened and the young man walked out, pulling a cart with 2 big pots of flowers. As he walked away, Xian Fu and Master Yi walked towards the store. Xian Fu opened the door loudly, slamming it against the wall and making a pot of flowers hanging from the ceiling crash to the floor. Hey you! Where are these men? He demanded of a man who was tending to the flowers. I got a tip that they're in your shop. As you can see, no one is here but us, the man replied, spreading his arms to emphasize the point. We know all about your secret back room, Master Yi told him. Kick it down, he ordered Xian Fu. Hey! That room is for flowers only, the man protested as Xian Fu ran past him and kicked down the door, revealing an empty room. The only thing that was in the room was a pie show tile, specifically the white lotus tile. Some unlucky soul has an incomplete pie show set, Master Yu stated as he picked up the tile, missing the actual point of the tile. Xian Fu angrily knocked the tile out of his hands. Let's go back to finding the girl, he told Master Yu. Outside the village, the young man was still pulling the cart with the 2 large flower pots. The flowers were lifted to reveal both Iroh and Zuko hiding in the pots. They shared a look and then went back down, placing the flowers back over their heads. You tell me where he is now, Aang told Gashian, and destroyed another sand sailor via airbending to emphasize his point. He was mad and he wanted his bison back. What did you do? The sandbender leader asked his son. It wasn't me, he protested. You said to put a muzzle on him, Toph announced, killing any defense he had. You muzzled Appa, Aang roared. At this point, his anger grew too much, and he went into the avatar state. He destroyed another sand sailor, and it was more violent this time. I'm sorry, Gashian apologized. I didn't know it belonged to the avatar. How many sky bison are left, you baka? Shouted Ino. There was only one left, it wasn't hard. Tell me where Appa is, Aang demanded, his voice mixing with those of the previous avatars, making it sound almost demonic. I traded him to some merchants. He's probably in Ba Sing Se by now. They were going to sell him there. Aang said nothing. He just stared at them, making them nervous. Please, we'll escort you out of the desert. We'll help however we can, Gashian promised. If he didn't try to appease the angry avatar, he and his tribe might end up dead. But this only seemed to make Aang even angrier, as the sand around him began to get swept up by the wind forming around him. You need to move, now, Asuma ordered. They all started running away from Aang, who was enveloped in a dome of air and lifted off his feet. He was also causing a sandstorm. Katara tried to reach for Aang but was pulled away from him by Sokka. Get out of here, Katara, he told her in a calm voice. What do you think you're doing? She demanded. I'm doing the job I was given. Now run, he ordered. As she moved away, he reached for Aang's arm. Aang, stop it, he told his friend, trying to get through to him. Aang simply moved a hand, and he was pushed back. The avatar was about to lash out against the sandbenders when Sokka grabbed his arm, yanked him down, and punched him in the face. I said stop it, he yelled, his eyes turning pitch black as he cut the link between Aang and the avatar state. Aang returned to normal as he fell to the ground. As he did, tears welled up in his eyes. Seeing the tears, Katara ran over to him and hugged him. I'm sorry, Aang. I'm so sorry, she whispered. He opened his eyes. It's not your fault, Katara, he told her. They broke the hug and stood back up. Aang turned to face the sandbender leader. Sorry about breaking the sand sailors. You have nothing to apologize for, Avatar, the leader said, looking at his son with a disapproving look. There are additional sand sailors nearby. We will be fine. We shall head towards them and then escort you out of the desert. Hold on, Sokka said, getting everyone's attention. There's one more issue we have with your tribe. And what is that? He looked to the wolf standing next to him. Who was it, Akela? He asked. Akela paced slowly towards the sandbenders. He began to sniff each one of them, checking their scent. What is the meaning of this? The leader asked. Sokka, what are you doing? Aang asked as well. Both he and the leader had no idea what was going on. You'll see, he answered shortly, keeping his gaze on the wolf. Akela kept sniffing, going to each sandbender. Finally, he found the scent of the one who wounded him. He looked up, bared his teeth, and growled at the sandbender leader's son, Gashian. He looked down at the growling wolf. What are you growling at me for, you stupid cur? He asked. Hearing movement on the sand, he leapt up just in time for Sokka to slug him in the face, breaking his nose in the process. He fell to the ground and the tribesmen kicked him repeatedly, his foot hitting harder and harder. Gashian tried to curl into a ball to avoid more of the pain, and it only worked marginally. Please, SD stop, he croaked out. You want me to stop, is that? Sokka asked. He stopped the kicking and grabbed Gashian by the collar. If you ever harm Akela again, your father won't have enough pieces of you to bury, he growled to the sandbender's face. To prove his point, he drew his machete and cut Gashian's chest, making it bleed badly. He threw the sandbender back to the ground and looked at his father. You might as well take care of him, he said. He and Akela walked back to their own group. No one said a word after what they had seen. That was whole other side of Sokka they never would have thought existed. Alright, I'm done here, Naruto said as he put the last book in place. He had to admit, the whole process went a lot faster when he had help. But we're not done, Professor Zay said as he looked at the rest of the empty shelves. There are still so many books that need to be replaced. It was saddening to see so many empty shelves. You don't think I know that? He asked the professor. Trust me, I've been doing this whenever I can for the past 3 years, and I know for a fact it will be a long time until this section will be completely restored. He just hoped that it would be finished before he died. How did you find the library in the first place? Zay asked him as they walked back to the center of the library. By accident, the blonde admitted. I got caught in a sandstorm 3 years ago. I found the tower and climbed inside. That's when I met the owl. He was generous to allow me to wait out the storm in the library. I walked around the place, looking at all the books, and eventually saw the destroyed Fire Nation section. When the sandstorm eventually died and I could leave, I made the owl a deal. I could come back as many times as I can to restore the Fire Nation section of the library. He took the deal on the spot. That's incredible. He never would have thought to do that. He shrugged. Not really, the bird was moping around before I made him the offer. That is something I never really want to see again. It's too weird. Why is that? The professor asked as they walked down the halls, the sound of their feet echoing all around them. When he gets depressed or mopes around, he goes to the baby section of the library and reads nursery rhymes. If he's really depressed, he starts singing them out loud, Naruto told him, silently suppressing a shudder at the memory. That had been a long 3 hours. You're right, that is weird, Zay agreed. He made a silent note to stay out of Wan Shi Tong's way when he got like that. They reached the bridge directly below the tower. Time for me to go, Naruto said, looked over at Zay. Now do you remember what I told you about living here? He asked the professor. He nodded. Make sure that Wan Shi Tong doesn't mistake me for food. Always keep treats on hand for the knowledge seekers. And make sure that Wan Shi Tong eats occasionally, he recited, counting the things on his hands. Did I miss anything? That's pretty much it. I'll see you when I come back, Zay, he said before literally jumping all the way up to the inside of the tower, and then ran up it, leaving behind a stunned Zay. He soon leapt out of the window and landed in the Si Wong Desert. Information went through his head almost as soon as he landed. It seems that the Avatar's group has received help from the Sandbenders, he mused. Indeed, the QB agreed as he looked through the information as well. Sokka managed to see your clone. It's a good thing he was hallucinating beforehand. Otherwise, the rest might have seen it. That's true. Right now, the second clone was tracking them. They appeared to be heading for Ba Sing Se. That made sense. They had been in the library and found information for the war. There was no doubt that they would try to get to the center of the Earth Kingdom. The fox grinned. Kit, do you remember lesson number 5? Of course I do. When you hear opportunity knocking, open the door, he recited. That was an important lesson, and it always paid to pay attention to it. They just gave you a very good opportunity. He caught the fox's drift and grinned as well. Yes, they did. It also gives me a chance to refine an old jutsu of mine. He was beginning to look forward to this idea. It also helped that he had been in Ba Sing Se before and knew exactly what to do. The QB looked through his Jinchuriki's mind and saw what he was planning. You are evil, Kit. I approve. They won't see this coming until it's too late, he declared with an evil grin. Then it's best to get started, isn't it? He quickly created another clone. Go find the princess and tell her what's going to happen. The clone nodded in acknowledgement. The two of them ran at top speed through the desert, inadvertently causing a sandstorm between them. Chapter 12, Passage and Knowledge. Location: Earth Kingdom. Aang and his group managed to get out of the Si Wong Desert with the help of the Sandbender tribe, even though most of them stayed away from Sokka after what happened to Gashian. Once they were out of the desert, they started to make their way towards Ba Sing Se. They took a break near the waterfall, while Sokka was looking over a map he'd taken from Wan Shi Tong's library while Akela took a nap next to him. The wolf had recovered from his injuries from the desert. Toph sat near the water's edge, splashing her feet. Aang was floating in the water. He dived under the water and bent it to freeze himself in a block of ice to float better, leaving his head free. Shikamaru was lying on his back, watching clouds. Asuma and Ino were double-checking the supplies and Choji was trying to fish. As for Katara, she was high on a ledge over the pool of water. She yelled out waterbending bomb before jumping off the ledge and landing in the water. The reason she said waterbending was because of the large amount of water that splashed down on the others. Team Asuma got clear of the splash zone. Aang landed back on the bank, breaking the ice covering him. Toph stayed where she was and Sokka covered the map he was looking at from the water while Akela woke up with a surprised yelp. While the others laughed, Sokka was annoyed. Sure, he grumbled as he held the map up, letting the water drip out. 5,000-year-old map from the spirit library, just splash some water on them. Katara got out of the water. Sorry, she apologized before bending the water out of the map, drying it. Akela got up from where he was sleeping, padded over to where Katara was standing and shook his fur dry in front of her. Stop that, Akela. If you don't want that to happen, don't get the wolf wet, Choji said. Or hit him with cold water, Shikamaru continued. It's a troublesome way to wake up. Speaking from experience, Shikamaru? Ino asked innocently. Yes, he answered shortly. He wasn't going to go there, not with her around. So, did you figure out what route we're going to take? Aang asked as they huddled up around Sokka. Okay, he started. We just got out of the desert, so we must be around here. He pointed to a spot on the map. And we need to go to Ba Sing Se, which is here. He pointed to the city, which was visible on the map. It looks like the only passage connecting the south to the north is this sliver of land called the Serpent's Pass. You're sure that's the best way to go? Toph asked him. She couldn't see the map, but the name itself was foreboding. It's the only way, he replied. I mean, it's not like we have Appa to fly us there. Shush up about Appa, Katara whispered to him. Can't you at least try to be sensitive? The two of them looked at Aang. Ever since his temper tantrum in the desert, they had tried to be careful around him, like he was damaged goods. Katara, it's okay, the air nomad told her. I know I was upset about losing Appa before, but I just want to focus on getting to Ba Sing Se and telling the Earth King about the solar eclipse. Oh, well, okay, she answered, unsure if he meant what he said. I'm glad you're doing better. Just leave him alone, Katara, Ino told her. He'll take care of it when he wants to. It was better to let him sort it out on his own. Then to Ba Sing Se we go, Sokka declared, rolling up the map and standing up. No more distractions. Hello there, fellow refugees. A voice called out. Behind the group stood a man and two women, one of which was pregnant. Sokka just scowled at them. How troublesome, a distraction, Shikamaru said in a very dry voice. Knock it off, Shikamaru! Ino berated her teammate. Introductions were soon made. The man's name was Tan and he was traveling with his sister and pregnant wife. So, are you guys heading to Ba Sing Se too? Aang asked them. Sure are, Tan answered. We're trying to get there before my wife, Aang, has her baby. He rubbed Ying's swollen belly. Great, we can travel through the Serpent's Pass together, Katara said. Tan, his sister, and his wife flinched. The Serpent's Pass? Asked Aang. Only the truly desperate take that deadly route. Deadly route, Toph repeated before hitting Sokka in the arm. Great pick, Sokka. Well, we are desperate, Sokka told her, rubbing his shoulder. How else were they going to get to Ba Sing Se? He didn't see anything else on the map that got them there. You should come with us to Full Moon Bay, Tan suggested. Ferries take refugees across the lake. It's the fastest way to Ba Sing Se. And it's hidden, so the Fire Nation can't find it, Aang supplied. Peaceful ferry ride or deadly pass? Katara asked with obvious sarcasm, looking pointedly at her brother. Shut up, Katara, Sokka told her. How was I supposed to know that there was a harbor there? Aside from that, they all agreed to go to Full Moon Bay. They managed to make there without any harm and soon found the tunnel that led into the harbor. Katara was shocked at what she saw. I can't believe how many people's lives have been uprooted by the Fire Nation. She watched a mother feed food to her baby, who didn't like it and cried in protest. We're all looking for a bit of life, safe, behind the walls of Ba Sing Se, Tan told her. But it didn't change the fact that what they were was quite basically a slum. Even if they weren't in the city yet, it was still a slum. One of the ferries behind the harbor wall sailed out onto the lake, traveling towards the city. On that same ferry was a dragon who hailed from the west and a dragon that had been scarred by his own father. Who would have thought after all these years, I'd returned to the scene of my greatest military disgrace, as a tourist? Iroh said solemnly before putting on a hat with a flower in it, trying to lighten the mood. It didn't work. Look around, Zuko told him. We're not tourists, we're refugees. He picked up a bowl of food, which consisted of gruel and chunks of something, drank a little bit and spat it back out. Ugh! I'm sick of eating rotten food, sleeping in the dirt. I'm tired of living like this. Aren't we all? A nearby voice asked. Turning their heads, the two of them saw that the voice belonged to a dark-haired teenager chewing a piece of wheat. My name's Jet, he introduced himself. And these are my freedom fighters, Smellerby and Longshot. Hey, Smellerby greeted. Longshot just nodded. Zuko looked back out at the water. Hello, he said. They were trying to blend in. That meant keeping conversations and interactions with other people to a minimum. Jet walked closer. Here's the deal, he began. I hear the captain's eating like a king while us refugees have to feed of his scraps. Doesn't seem fair, does it? What sort of king is he eating like? Iroh asked. The fat, happy kind, he answered, making Iroh start to drool. You want to help us liberate some food? He asked Zuko. Zuko stared into the bowl of food in front of him. It was either blending in, or eating bad food. Making his choice, he threw the bowl into the water. I'm in, he told Jet, who smirked in reply. I told you already. The passport attendant told a merchant in front of her. No vegetables on the ferry. One cabbage slug could destroy the entire ecosystem of Ba Sing Se. Security! She called out. A nearby security platypus bear destroyed the cart holding the vegetables. My cabbages! Screamed out the merchant, who then had to be carried away by security guards. Next! The attendant called out. Aang stepped forward. 8 tickets for the ferry for Ba Sing Se, please, he told her. Passports? She asked, sounding like she already wanted him gone. No one told us we had to have passports. He would have thought they could go right in. Don't you know who this is? Sokka asked her. He's the Avatar. The attendant scoffed. I see 50 avatars a day, and by the way, not the very impressive costume. She pointed to a group of people who were dressed as Aang being watched by security. Besides, no animals allowed, she said when she saw Momo and Akela. Do I need to call security? They looked at the platypus bear, which chomped down on a cabbage to emphasize the point. That won't be necessary, Aang told her. Next? She barked out. Toph walked to the attendant's stand. I'll take care of this, she told Aang. My name is Toph Beifong and I'll need 8 tickets, she told the attendant, showing her passport. Ah, the golden seal of the flying boar, the attendant gushed as she looked at the passport. It is my pleasure to help anyone of the Beifong family. She bowed her head to blind earthbender. It is your pleasure, Toph told her pointedly. As you can see, I am blind, and these 7 imbeciles are my valets. She gestured to the rest of the group, who smiled and waved. Bud, the monkey, the attendant tried to object. Is my seeing eye lemur? And the wolf? Has been trained to alert us at night should anyone try to kidnap Lady Toph, Sokka told her. He's completely docile, provided you don't try to take Lady Toph. He looked at her with a suspicious look. You weren't planning on taking Lady Toph, were you? On cue, Akela began to growl at the attendant. That's enough, Akela. She's not going to kidnap me, Toph told the wolf. He stopped growling, going along with the act. Well, normally it's only 1 ticket per passport, the attendant began. But this document is so official, I guess it's worth 8 tickets. She stamped 8 tickets. Thank you very much, Toph said, taking the tickets and walking away. The rest of the group followed. Akela barked once loudly. Yes, indeed, Akela. The attendant is a suck-up, Sokka said loudly, letting the whole line hear him. It loosened the tension a little bit by making the line laugh. The attendant scowled, but he didn't care. What he did care about was when someone grabbed by the back of his shirt and pulled him around. Tickets and passports, please, a guard woman demanded. Is there a problem? He asked cautiously. He didn't think his comment was too out of line. Yeah, I got a problem with you, she told him. I've seen your type before. Probably sarcastic, think you're hilarious, and let me guess, you're traveling with the Avatar. He looked at her closely. She seemed familiar for some reason. Do I know you? His shirt was grabbed again. You don't remember? The guard demanded. Maybe you remember this. She kissed him on the cheek. Didn't see that coming, Shikamaru commented. Me neither, Ino agreed. Sokka, on the other hand, brightened up and said Suki, before hugging her with a big grin on his face. He hadn't recognized the Kyoshi warrior without her gear and makeup on. She broke the hug. Sokka, it's good to see you, she told him with a smile on her face. Hold up, I think some of us need an introduction here, Toph said. Personally, she was at a loss and she didn't like that. She wanted some information quickly. Right, sorry about that, Sokka replied, looking at the rest of the group. Guys, this is Suki. She's the leader of the Kyoshi warriors. Suki, this is Toph Beifong, Aang's earthbending teacher. Nice to meet you, Suki greeted the blind earthbender. This is Asuma Sarutobi, Choji Akimichi, Ino Yamanaka, and Shikamaru Nara, he introduced Team Asuma. They were hired to protect us. Nice to meet you, Asuma said. Hey, Shikamaru said lazily. It's nice to meet you, Suki, Ino said. Kyoshi warriors, isn't that the group you said you saw in the desert doing a... Choji didn't finish what he was saying due to the fact Asuma covered his mouth to stop him from talking. Of all the things you could have said, you went with that? Sokka demanded. Why would the Akimichi say something like that? What were we doing, Sokka? Suki asked in an innocent, dangerous voice. Something that I'll only tell you when I'm not sober, he told her. He was certain that he wouldn't want to remember what came next. He heard a woof and saw that Akela was giving him a pointed look. Sorry. Suki, this is Akela. The wolf padded forward and started to sniff her thoroughly, going all around her. Once he was done, he went back to Sokka's side and nodded. What just happened? Suki asked him. He approves of you. Realizing the fact that they couldn't talk in the open, Suki led them a place where they could do so in peace. You look so different without your makeup, Katara told her. And the new outfit. The waterbender looked at the uniform she was wearing. It was completely different. That crabby lady makes all the security guards wear them, she explained. And look at you, sleeveless guy, she said to Sokka, looking him over. Been working out? I'll grab a tree branch and do a few pull-ups now and then. Nothing major, he told her while stretching, showing off without shame. Are the other Kyoshi warriors around? Aang asked her. It made sense to him. If she was here, the others must be too. Yeah, she answered. After you left Kyoshi, we wanted to find a way to help people. We ended up escorting some refugees and we've been here ever since. Momo jumped onto the edge of the wall, making Suki giggle. Hi Momo, good to see you too. She scratched his ear. So why are you guys getting tickets for the ferry? Wouldn't you just fly across on Appa? Everyone got a little downcast when they thought of the sky bison. Appa's missing, Katara told her. We hope to find him in Ba Sing Se. The information they got from the sandbenders was all they had to go on. I'm so sorry to hear that. Are you doing okay? She asked Aang. He looked at her, and then at the rest of the group. They all had a look of concern on their faces. I'm doing fine, he told them, trying to reassure them. Would everybody stop worrying about me? Avatar Aang, called out Aang from below, getting his attention. You have to help us. Someone took all our belongings. Our passports, our tickets, everything's gone. I'll talk to the lady for you, he told them. It didn't go according to plan. No passports, no tickets. The passport attendant told him, stamping his forehead. But she's pregnant, and all of their stuff was stolen. You have to make an exception, Aang protested. No exceptions, she yelled. If I just gave away tickets willy-nilly to anyone, there would be no more order. And you know what that means. No more civilization. Shut up, you cranky bitch, a voice cried out. The line cleared away to reveal a teenage girl around Shikamaru, Ino and Choji's age. She had brown eyes and short black hair. She wore a dark green shirt and black shorts. The funny thing was that what she wore didn't hide her ample assets. It highlighted them as well as her legs. If you did what you preached, I would have been in Ba Sing Se already. You damn well knew that was my passport that guy gave you. It had my name on it. All the guy had to do was give you a little incentive to convince you that was his passport, and have security detain me. So don't you dare preach about order, you spirit's damned hypocrite. She yelled out for the entire harbor to hear. Security! Bellowed the attendant. Detain that girl. The security men moved to grab her. You'll have to catch me first. she said before running away. Aang turned his attention back to the attendant. Look, what if we gave them our tickets? HH suggested to the attendant. He was trying to be reasonable. But she was being stubborn. No. But, next? She yelled out, spittle hitting Aang in the face. He walked away back to Tan and his family, wiping the spit and ink from his face. Don't worry, you'll get to the city safely, he told them. I'll lead you through the Serpent's Pass. Of course, we're going to go through there, Shikamaru drawled. Why would things be easy for once? Sokka groaned. Knew it, I just knew it. They had to get rid of their tickets first, and Sokka knew just the way to do it. They walked up to the front of the attendant's stand, held out the tickets, and yelled out tickets. Free tickets here. It caused a stampede, and the attendant was left with the chaos, which was the plan. Alright, that lady got what she deserved. The tribesmen cheered as they walked away. Time to head for the Serpent's Pass then, Asuma said as they neared the exit. I'm coming too, Suki called out. She ran towards them in full Kyoshi warrior gear and makeup. Sokka looked back at her with some surprise on his face. Are you sure that's a good idea? Sokka, I thought you'd want me to come, she replied. I do, it's just. Thoughts of you came to his mind. He could still see her, mere moments before she gave up her life to become the moon. Just what? The Kyoshi warrior demanded. Nothing, I'm glad you're coming, he told her, pushing you away from his current thoughts. She joined the group while he just watched her with a worried look. He felt a weight press against his side. Looking down, he saw Akela giving him a look. I'm worried, that's all, he told the wolf before walking to catch up with the group. They were outside the tunnel that led into the harbor when they heard a voice yell HUYYY. Wait up! Coming out of the tunnel was the same girl who had yelled at the passport attendant. Glad I caught up with you guys, she said. What do you want? Asuma asked, instantly on his guard. He saw, out of the corner of his eye, that his team had done the same. You guys are going through the Serpent's Pass, right? She asked them. Yeah, that's right, Ino answered. She grinned. Great, then I'm coming with you. Her declaration threw some of the people there for a loop. But the shinobi stayed cautious. What makes you say that? Choji asked. I've been trying to get into Ba Sing Se for over 2 months now, she told them. If there's a chance of getting to that city, I'll take it. How convenient, Sokka muttered. A stranger wants to join us. The girl looked at him. You don't trust me, do you? She asked him. Sokka, we don't need your paranoia now. Katara hissed at him with a frown on her face. Sorry, my brother gets like that, she apologized. It's not his fault, you guys don't know me, the girl told her. But still, I'm going with you guys. We don't need excess baggage, Aang said, surprising everyone there. He's usually the first one to help people. So, you're not coming with. Whatever he was going to say next disappeared when she was suddenly behind him with an arm around his neck, slightly choking him. If you're implying that I can't hold my own in a fight, she whispered in his ear. I think I'll be fine. Is that okay, you self-important little brat? Alright, that's enough, Asuma said, taking control of the situation before it got any worse. You can come along. That was the plan. She let go of Aang. Sorry about that, I wanted to make my point, she apologized to the air nomad. He didn't say anything in reply. Is there something we can call you? Or should we just stick to troublesome woman? Shikamaru asked her. Oh right, knew I forgot something, she said with a small blush on her face. My name is Jie. Is there anything else? Yes, I have a question, Ino said as she stared at the girl. What exactly do you eat? Huh? What do you mean? They're huge. The kunoichi pointed to her breasts. She couldn't get that size if she tried. Her face blushed fast. Don't stare at them, she cried, covering them as best she could. It's bothering me. She didn't like when people did that. Wow, a girl who's insecure about her breasts being that big, the guys in the group, except Aang, thought to themselves. Sorry, Ino instantly apologized. She didn't mean to make the girl feel uncomfortable. It's okay, Shia told her, still trying to hide them. Just don't stare at them like that. Back in my village, the other girls started to make fun of me when they got bigger. Anyway, we'd better get going, Asuma announced. The girl was coming, and they had already agreed. So, they might as well get moving. They made their way to the Serpent's Pass, which took them surprisingly little time. This is the Serpent's Pass? Sokka asked as he looked at the beginning of the trail. I thought it would be windier. You know, like a serpent. I guess they misnamed it. Try to think vertically instead of horizontally, Shikamaru suggested. He tried doing that. Sorry, still not seeing it. All he saw was a very tall, very thin pathway. Aang noticed something on a nearby post. Look at this writing, how awful, she said as she read what was there. What does it say? Toph asked. She wasn't even looking in the direction of the writing, but she was curious all the same. Katara looked at the writing. It says abandon hope, she read aloud for all to hear. How can we abandon hope? It's all we have, Aang asked. It was the only thing that kept them going to get to Ba Sing Se. I don't know, Aang said. He had been taught differently. The monks used to say that hope is just a distraction. So maybe we do need to abandon it. Katara was about to say something but Shuya cut her off. If that's the case, then your monk friends were probably among the stupidest people in this world, she said. Aang gripped his staff tightly. What did you just say? He asked her, looking at her but not moving from where he stood. No one insulted the monks in front of him. You heard me, she replied, completely calm and not letting anything show. But right now, we just have to keep moving. She started to walk onto the trail of the Serpent's Pass. The group was silent for a few minutes. We might as well follow her, Choji said. Everyone else agreed with what he said and followed the girl. They had to be careful when traveling across the Serpent's Pass. The part they were on now was just a thin path against a wall of rock. The Fire Nation controls the Western Lake, Suki explained when they saw a Fire Nation ship on the water. Rumor has it they're working on something big on the other side and they don't want anyone to find out what it is. Aang gave the nearby ship a glance but kept on walking. Everyone else followed him until the edge of the path beneath Tan gave away, making him begin to fall towards the water. Toph bent a slab of rock to jut out so that he could land safely. She then bent the rock to send him back onto the path. I'm okay, he said, reassuring his family. But the falling rock alerted the Fire Nation ship. They spotted us. Sokka called out as the ship began to sling fireballs at them. Let's go! Let's go! Aang leapt off the path to meet the fireball head-on. With a swing of his staff and some airbending, he sent it flying back into the ship's smokestacks, destroying them completely. But they could still sling fireballs. Another one was fired and hit the side of the cliff above them, causing rocks to start to fall. They were heading straight for Suki until Sokka pushed her out of the way. They were about to hit him when Toph bent the cliff side to jut out at an angle, allowing the rocks to roll off into the water. Suki, are you okay? Sokka demanded as he helped her stand up. You have to be more careful. Come on. He led her down the path, leaving Toph standing alone with Momo. Thanks for saving my life, Toph. Hey, no problem, Sokka, she muttered to herself before joining the run. Aang joined them as the Fire Nation just sat in the water. They ran on for a little more time before finally stopping to catch their breath. I think we're out of the danger zone, Asuma said looking back. The Fire Nation ship had been damaged and wasn't pursuing them. We need to keep moving, Aang said, looking ahead. We figured, Mr. Moody, Shia said. You go on ahead, we will follow. He just glared at her and started walking away. The group followed as Katara walked alongside Shia. Why do you keep insulting him like that? She asked. Simple, because I can, Shia answered with a shrug, like it was the simplest thing out there. But he's the Avatar. That fact alone should have commanded respect from everyone who knew what that meant. So? It doesn't matter. He's just another kid who thinks he's hot stuff. Besides, if he is the Avatar, he should have manned up 100 years ago. But he ran. So, I think I can insult him all I want, and there's nothing you can do about it. She walked up the group, leaving Katara alone. They kept on walking until the sun was setting. By then they had found a place where they could sleep for the night, so they decided to make camp. Sokka saw that Suki was setting up near the edge. Suki, you shouldn't sleep there, he told her. Who knows how stable this ledge is? It could give way at any moment. He grabbed her gear and carried it away. Sokka, I'm fine. Stop worrying, she told him. You're right, he told her as he laid out her gear. You're perfectly capable of taking care of yourself. Suki began to sit down. Wait! He barked out, leaping in front of her. Oh, never mind, I thought I saw a spider. But you're fine. He patted her shoulder, making her give him a flat stare. Akela had to restrain the urge to not bite him in the ass. Zuko, Jet and Smellerbee went the staircase to the third level of the ferry. Waiting for the guard to pass, they made their way to the storeroom. Smellerbee was on lookout while Zuko and Jet went for the door. Ramming an end of one of his hooked swords into the lock, Jet was able to open the door. After making sure there weren't any guards, the two quickly got to work. Jet cut the dead animals from their strings and bagged them while Zuko used his swords to stack and tie up bowls that were filled with food before bagging them as well. Guards coming, Smellerbee called out in a hushed voice. They got out of the storeroom, closing the door behind them, and ran to the railing. 2 levels below, Longshot was waiting. He fired off an arrow with a rope attached. It hit the railing, allowing Zuko, Jet and Smellerbee zip down the line with the goods intact. Longshot pulled and the arrow broke away from the railing, letting it fall down just as a guard went by. The 4 of them walked away, making sure no one saw them with the food. Aang stood alone, watching the water below him. Katara walked up behind him. "You know, it's okay to miss Appa," she told him. He said nothing. He just kept looking out to the water. "What's going on with you? In the desert, all you cared about was finding Appa, and now it's like you don't care about him at all." "You saw what I did out there," he answered. "I was so angry at losing Appa, I couldn't control myself. I hated feeling like that." The monks would have looked at him with disappointment in their eyes if they had seen what had happened with the sandbenders. "But now you're not letting yourself feel anything," she protested. "I know sometimes it hurts more to hope and it hurts more to care. But you have to promise me that you won't stop caring." She opened her arms wide. "Come on, you need a hug." He simply turned and bowed to her. "Thank you for your concern, Katara," he said before walking away. Katara was downcast by what he had said and how he treated her. "I thought I told you to leave him alone and let him figure it out," Ino said behind her. She turned around and saw both Ino and Shie. "I just wanted to help," she tried to explain. It was in her nature. Couldn't they see that? "Katara, the best way you can help him is to let him deal with it," Ino told her. "You trying to help will only hinder him in the long run." "Or you could just hit him upside the head and tell him to grow up," Shie suggested. Katara glared at the girl. "What would you know about how Aang feels?" "I don't. It gives me an unbiased look at him." Her voice filled itself with scorn as she spoke. "In my opinion, he needs to be kicked in the ass rather than have a nice hug." "And you think you're the one to do it?" "Nope, I'll just insult him until he's better." She grinned. "Face the facts, princess, not everything can be fixed with a hug and someone saying that everything will be alright or that they're sorry. If that were true, this war wouldn't have dragged on for this long. Everyone is hoping that the Avatar will stop the Fire Nation and bring balance back to the world." She scoffed. "If little Miss Arrowhead keeps acting like that, we're screwed." "You don't believe in him?" Katara asked, astounded by what she was hearing. "You don't think he can stop the war? It's been going for over a century now and so far, he hasn't done a damn thing to stop it," she replied easily enough. "Well, what about you? Do you have a plan to stop the Fire Lord? Did your parents train you in the ways of the warrior so you could help save the world? No, you're just here because your village got burned to the ground and you hope to find safety in Ba Sing Se." The waterbender yelled at her. "You're going too far, Katara," Ino warned her. Shie's grin disappeared, and she looked like she was desperately trying to make sure she wouldn't beat Katara into the ground right then and there. "For the record, princess, my village hasn't been burned to the ground, they just kicked me out because they didn't need, and I quote someone that's not wanted here," she grounded out. "And yes, my parents didn't teach how to fight in the war, probably because I was raised by a woman who was skilled in the world's oldest profession, who kicked me out when I was 10. She walked away, anger showing in her steps. The 2 girls watched her leave. "You went too far there, Katara," Ino told her. "Sometimes, the waterbender just didn't know when to stop." "Maybe I did," she admitted. "But why would a huntress kick her out of the house?" Ino looked at her like she couldn't believe what she had just heard. "What? The oldest profession in the world is being a hunter, right? They had been around for as long as anyone could remember." The kunoichi shook her head in exasperation. "She wasn't raised by a hunter. She was raised by a whore. Odds are she was kicked out so the whore could get more customers." Katara was shocked by those words. "No one would ever do that," she protested. To do such a thing would have been unthinkable, at least to her. "Yes, they do, and you just saw the result of one." Ino walked away, leaving Katara with her thoughts. Sokka sat alone, looking at the moon in the sky. It went behind a cloud for a moment, and when it cleared, Suki was walking towards him. "It's a beautiful moon," she said, looking up at it. "Yeah, it really is," he said, thinking of you. Whenever he saw the moon, he couldn't help but think of her. She sat down next to him. "Look, I know you're just trying to help, but I can take care of myself." "I know you can." She had proven that to him back on her own island. "Then why were you acting so overprotective?" she asked. "It's so hard to lose someone you care about," he told her before looking away. He couldn't keep eye contact with her. "Something happened at the North Pole and I couldn't protect someone. I don't want anything like that to happen again." "I lost someone I cared about," she admitted. "He didn't die, he just went away. I only had a few days to get to know him. But he was smart, and brave and funny." Sokka, being the clueless male teenager he is, got mad and stood up. "Who is this guy?" he demanded. "Is he taller than me?" "No, he's about your height," she answered without giving away anything. "Is he better looking?" "It is you, stupid," she finally told him. "Oh," he said, feeling like an idiot. The two of them just stared at each other. They leaned closer, and their eyes closed. They were about to kiss when Sokka pulled away. "I can't," he told her, "the reminder of what happened to you still in the sky." "I'm sorry," she said to him. "No, you shouldn't be." He walked away, leaving Suki alone under the moon. Jet walked alongside the passengers, handing out the food they had taken. It was almost like a banquet. Zuko, Iroh and the other two freedom fighters sat together. "So, Smellerby," Iroh began. "That's an unusual name for a young man." "Maybe it's because I'm not a man," she told him. "I'm a girl." She got up and walked away. "Oh, now I see. It's a beautiful name for a lovely girl," he called after her, apology evident in his voice. Longshot got up from where he sat and went after her. He stopped her and gave a look. "I know," she said. "You're right. If I'm confident with who I am, it doesn't matter what other people." "Thanks, Longshot." He simply nodded. Zuko and Iroh were eating their food when Jet joined them. "From what I heard, people eat like this every night in Ba Sing Se," he told them as he sat down. "I can't wait to set my eyes on that giant wall." "It is a magnificent sight," Iroh agreed. It had been something that had drawn his breath away when he had first seen it. "So you've been there before?" Jet asked him. "Once, when I was a different man," he answered evasively. There was no need to tell them young man he had tried to take the city. "I've done some things in my past that I'm not proud of. But that's why I'm going to Ba Sing Se, for a new beginning, a second chance." "That's very noble of you," Iroh told him. "I believe people can change their lives if they want to. I believe in second chances." Zuko looked at his uncle. He knew Iroh wasn't just talking about Jet having a second chance. Everyone, except for Sokka, was still sleeping deeply. The tribesman had tried to go to sleep, but it had eluded him, allowing him to only sleep fitfully. Finally giving up when morning was, he got up from where he had tried to sleep and grabbed a towel, getting the attention of Akela. "I'm going to blow off some steam, you go back to sleep," he told the wolf before he walked away. Akela didn't believe him. He rose from where he was sleeping. He knew who should go talk to Sokka. Sokka walked back to where he and Suki had talked. "Perhaps it's best to work on the one style I know the least," he thought. He took a fire-bending stance and began to practice. He went over the moves and motions that he knew. He was sweating so much that he took off his shirt so that it wouldn't get sticky and gross. Admittedly, he didn't know a lot about the style. Even though it was one of the more frequent styles of bending he had seen, he couldn't exactly stop in the middle of fight and ask a firebender to show him that move again. So he had to keep going over what he did know until it felt right. He had just finished the practice when he heard someone moving behind him. "Having a good workout?" Suki asked, just standing there. He turned to face her. She wasn't wearing her armor, just the kimono. For some reason, it made her seem a little delicate. "Yeah, I was," he answered as he reached for the towel that he had brought along with him. Suki stared at a bare-chested Sokka, taking in all the details she could see as he wiped himself off. And it all came into one thought. "I want." That was when she saw something hanging from his neck. "Sokka, are you a paragon?" she asked with amazement as she looked at his medallion. He stopped trying himself and looked down. "Why?" he asked cautiously. Her hand dipped into her kimono, and she pulled out a similar medallion, The difference was the top of her medallion held the ancient symbol for Earth. He just stared at her in surprise. "You're the paragon of the Earth Kingdom," she finished. "But how?" It was the only thing he could think to ask her at that moment. "When I started my Kyoshi warrior training, I also learned how to use the 4 bending arts, even though I wasn't a bender," she explained. "The day the Kyoshi warriors left, Oyaji pulled me aside. He said that I had been trained for this. He gave me this and said that even though he was not a high-ranking member of the order, he was high enough to be able to give me it to me." She lifted her paragon medallion slightly to emphasize his point. "He said that I was now the Earth Kingdom paragon, and told me what that meant. The last thing he told me was that no matter what happens to the bending countries and no matter what the Avatar does, the 4 paragons stand as one." "Have you met Sifu?" he asked her. If she truly was a fellow paragon, she would have met the spirit. She nodded. "He visited me that same night." The first word out of his mouth was "finally." He chuckled. "That sounds like Sifu, all right." They both laughed at that. "So, you've been trained in all 4 bending styles?" She nodded. "Yeah." She knew each style quite well. "Then maybe you can help me. I don't know much of fire bending, you could probably help me." He dropped into a fire bending stance, showing an open challenge. She smiled. "You're on." They began to spar, stopping every now and then so she could correct something that he was doing wrong. He began to understand what she was showing him, and the spars lasted longer. They had barely noticed that the sun was rising. Finally, they had both blocked strikes from each other, and were holding them, seeing who would break away first. They were panting as they stared into each other's eyes. Suki looked at the boy she liked. Whoever was going to break away first was not the only thing on her mind. Finally, she couldn't hold it in anymore. "Oh, spirits take it!" She broke away, grabbed his face and pulled him into a kiss. Now this wasn't a kiss on the cheek one give to their family, or the chaste kiss on the lips one gave to someone you like. Oh no, this was the kind of kiss that included tongue, and usually led to clothes flying. Taken aback from the sudden kiss, Sokka was so shocked at Suki's actions that his brain went into shutdown. He returned the kiss with gusto. He pushed her back to a nearby wall, making her gasp a little, letting Sokka invade her mouth. While their tongues were dancing, their hands explored the other's body. He cupped one of her breasts while she felt up the developed abs he had. Fortunately, or unfortunately, depends on your opinion, his brain had rebooted at this point. Stop, he groaned, breaking the kiss and pulling away. We should stop. She gave a low moan of objection. Why? She asked huskily. You were enjoying it as much as I was. She was enjoying herself. If we keep this up, the others will see us. Let them. She felt his muscles underneath her hand. She wanted to kiss him again. She enjoyed it. Suki, stop, he told her. We have to go soon. Her mind cleared from the hormone-induced haze. She immediately blushed at what had just happened. You're right. Sorry. She quickly walked away, leaving him alone as the sun rose into the sky. He put his shirt back on silently, and started to walk back when he noticed Akela standing nearby. How long were you watching? He asked the wolf. Akela just smiled in his own wolfish way and padded back to where the rest of the group was waking up. The tribesmen had no choice but to follow. Katara looked over at her brother walking back to them. Where have you been, Sokka? She asked. She hadn't seen him when she had woken up. I was practicing my firebending moves, he answered, deliberately avoiding eye contact with Suki. I still need to work on it. Okay then. She looked at the entire group. We need to get moving, so we'll have to eat as we walk, she told them all. The group started moving again through the Serpent's Pass, heading to Ba Sing Se. As they did, Katara walked alongside Jia. Hey, about last night, she began before smelling something. What is that? Herb ointment, Jia answered curtly. Helps relieve some of the back pain I get in the morning. The rest disappears after I walk a bit. Oh, okay, she said before falling silent. Like I said about last night, save it. Princess, she cut her off. I don't want to hear about how you're sorry. Like I said, not everything can be fixed with a hug or saying you're sorry. Go away. Katara sighed in defeat and walked to the front of the group. They continued walking on the path through the day when they came upon a surprise. The path that connected the two mountain-like formations had been completely submerged. We could probably carry people over, Ino suggested to her teammates. We can walk on water. It'll take too long, Shikamaru countered. Not to mention it'd be troublesome. Katara took charge. Everyone single file, she ordered. They did so and she walked forward, bending the water to part before them. She continued to do so as they walked deeper into the water. Aang, I need help. She called out to the rear. Aang handed his staff to Toph and helped bend the water around them to form a bubble. They walked under the water, safe due to the bubble enclosing them. The fish swam around the bubble, content with what they had in life. Hey Choji! Called out Sokka with a grin. Do you still want some fish? Choji groaned. Why did you have to bring that up? He asked. The tribesman was never going to let him live that down. Momo was watching the fish with interest. He leapt from Toph's shoulder into the water to chase after them. He would have gladly chased them for a little while longer had it not been for the large creature that swam right behind him. He leapt back into the bubble just as the others noticed the creature's shadow. What is that? Katara asked as the shadow disappeared. But the thing quickly reappeared as it smashed through the bubble, quickly filling it with water. Before they had a chance to drown, Toph bent the portion of rock they were on upwards. It broke through the water surface, becoming like a small island in the water. She wordlessly handed Aang his staff back. Meanwhile, the creature that had literally burst their bubble began to circle around them. After a few moments, the creature's head finally showed itself, roaring at the people on the rock. I think I just figured out why they call it the Serpent's Paw, Sokka said as he looked at the creature. No, really? Asked a nervous and very sarcastic Shia. What tipped you off? Not the time for that, Asuma told her. The serpent screeched at the group, almost like it was angry about them for trying to pass. Suki, you know about giant sea monsters. Make it go away, Sokka told her. Just because I live near the Unagi doesn't mean I'm an expert, she replied with a frown. Meanwhile, Shia had picked up Momo and held him out for the serpent to see. Oh, great and powerful sea serpent, please accept this humble and tasty offering. Thank you, she told the serpent. The serpent lunged for them, but Aang swatted it back with an air slice. I'll distract it. Katara, get everyone across, he ordered before opening his glider and flying towards the serpent. Choji, get in there and help him. Asuma ordered his student. Choji ran out onto the water. Cho Baika no Jutsu, super multi-size technique. He cried out as he flashed through the hand seals. He grew to a tremendous size and grabbed hold of the serpent. What came next was nothing short of a wrestling match. Katara jumped off the rock, bent the water to form into ice, making a bridge. She repeated the movements again and again until the ice bridge connected the island to the rest of the pass. Everyone except for Toph got onto the ice and made their way to the other end while Katara bent a board made from ice underneath her feet and made her way towards the fight. Choji, get back with the others, she called out to the giant Akimichi. We've got this. Choji nodded, let go of the thrashing serpent, and ran back to the group, shrinking back to his normal size as he went. The serpent chased after Aang, only to have Katara weigh a part of it body down with ice. It managed to break through the ice and chased after Katara. Meanwhile, Sokka had noticed that almost everyone had managed to make it across, except for one. Toph, come on! He called out to the blind earthbender, who was still on the tiny island she had made. It's just ice. She put one foot on said ice and withdrew it immediately. Actually, I'm going to stay on my little island where I can see, she yelled out. The serpent hitting said island made it clear to her that it wasn't a good idea. Okay, I'm coming, she announced as she made her way slowly over the ice. You're doing great, Sokka yelled out as she came to them. Just follow the sound of my voice. It's hard to ignore, she replied. But she was silently grateful. She couldn't see on the ice and all she had to go on was his voice. You're almost there, he told her as she got closer. But the serpent's tail smashed through the ice bridge, shattering it and sent Toph into the water. Help, I can't swim, she cried out as she struggled to stay afloat. I'm coming, Toph. Both he and Suki leapt into the water at the same time and swam towards their friend. When Toph went under, they dived under as well. They managed to grab her and bring up to the surface. Oh, Sokka, you saved me, Toph said after they broke through the water's surface. She then kissed Suki on the cheek. Wrong side, Toph, Sokka said from her left. Yeah, it's me, Suki said, feeling a little embarrassed by what just happened. Needless to say, Toph was more embarrassed. You can go ahead and let me drown now, she said. Sokka and Suki just swam back to the group with her in their grasp. Meanwhile, Aang and Katara were trying to confuse the serpent by running in circles around it while also bending a whirlpool into creation. The serpent kept going around and around until it finally hit its head against the high part of the pass, driving it away. Aang and Katara flew back to the group, which let out a cheer. Nicely done, you two, Asuma congratulated them. Yes, the way you dealt with the serpent was amazing, Aang said. She had never seen anything like that before in her life. We did what we could, Katara said. That's all. Shia looked at where the serpent had left. I'd hate to be a downer, but why don't we leave before that thing comes back for round 2? She suggested. That creature seemed like it would gladly come back for revenge. Everyone agreed with what she said and continued walking. It wasn't long before they had gotten through the serpent's pass. There's the wall, Sokka announced, pointing ahead. Indeed, far off in the distance was the outer wall of Ba Sing Se. Now it's nothing but smooth sailing to Ba Sing Se. At that point, Aang let out a gasp of pain. Oh no! She cried as she clutched her stomach. What's wrong? The baby's coming, she announced, a pool of water already forming between her legs. What? Now! Can't you hold it in or something? He asked her as she sat down on the ground. Sokka, calm down, Katara told her brother. I helped Gran deliver lots of babies back home. This wasn't going to be a problem. This isn't the same as delivering an Arctic seal, he protested, beginning to freak out. This is a real, human thing. It's called a baby and I helped her deliver plenty of those too, she told him patiently, if not a little irritated. Aang, Shikamaru, Asuma, get some rags. Sokka, Choji, Ino, water, she ordered. The two groups ran off to do their tasks. Toph, I need you to make an earth tent, a big one. The blind earthbender bent the earth into a tent-like shape over the family. Suki, Shia, come with me. She walked into the tent with the two of them right behind her. Zuko stared off into the distance, looking at the incoming land. You know, Jet's voice said behind him. As soon as I saw your scar, I knew exactly who you were. Zuko tensed up, thinking he had been made. You're an outcast, like me, Jet said, making him relax slightly. And us outcasts have to stick together. We must watch each other's backs, cause no one else will. I realized lately that being on your own isn't always the best path, Zuko replied. The two of them looked on as the walls of Ba Sing Se came closer. As he looked, the scarred dragon was glad he wasn't alone. He still had his uncle with him. Aang was panting inside the earth tent, holding on to her husband's and sister-in-law's hands. It was a hard process, giving birth. You're doing great, Aang, Katara assured her. Guys, where that water? She called out. Get ready to push. 1, 2, 3, push! Sokka had walked in when she ordered Aang to push. The result was him fainting. Get him out of here, Katara told Ino and Choji. Finally, after much hard work, the baby was born. Its cries were loud and healthy. It's a girl, Katara proclaimed for all to hear. Toph stood next to Sokka outside the tent. So, you want to go see the baby or are you going to faint like an old lady again? She asked him. She was a little amused by he did. No, I'm good this time, he answered. He had just been caught off guard, that was all. Don't be so hard on him, Toph, Shikamaru said. My dad fainted when my troublesome mother gave me birth. Of course, she hit him over the head with a frying pan later for it. Nice family you got there, the blind earthbender commented. It kinda grows on you, actually, Choji told her. They all walked into the tent, leaving Aang outside. Aang, Katara said from the tent's opening. You have to come see this. He got up and walked to the tent's entrance. Hearing the baby cry, he turned his gaze on the happy family surrounding the newborn. She sounds healthy, Toph noted. She's beautiful, Katara stated. I've only seen this with deer and it's troublesome, Shikamaru said before giving a small smile. But it's always worth it to see the look on the mother's face. It doesn't matter if she's human or not. To him, both Aang and her baby looked radiant. Wow, Shikamaru, Ino said, looking at her teammate. We didn't know you cared. You're just full of surprises, aren't you, buddy? Choji asked his friend. I shouldn't have opened my mouth, he grumbled. That's enough, you three, Asuma told them. So, this is what it will be like for me soon, he thought to himself. Images of Kurenai, and their soon-to-be-born baby filled his mind. It's so small, Sokka said after looking at the baby. Akela moved his head closer to the baby and began to sniff. After he was done, he gave the baby a big lick on the face, making it giggle. Aang smiled as he watched the scene in front of him. Your monk said that hope is just distraction, she had told him as she stood next to him inside the tent. But don't you see, Aang? Hope doesn't distract people, it drives them. It drove this family to find a safe place, just as you should let it drive you to find your missing friend. What should we name her? Tan asked his wife. I want our daughter's name to be unique, she told him. I want it to mean something. Aang began to tear up at this point. He wiped the tears away and walked forward. I've been going through a really hard time lately, he told the family. But you've made me hopeful again. Aang looked at him, and then her husband. I know what I want to name our baby now. Hope, she said. That's a perfect name, Tan agreed. Hope. They both looked at their baby, happy to have a new member to their family. Everyone filtered out of the tent so they could have some time alone. Aang pulled Katara aside. I thought I was trying to be strong, he told her. But really I was just running away from my feelings. Seeing this family together, so full of happiness and love, it's reminded me of how I feel about Appa, and how I feel about you. Katara cried a little but wiped the tears away. She and Aang gave each other a hug. They broke the hug and saw that Shuya was standing nearby. It took you long enough to stop moping around, she told Aang. But I thought you said he needed a kick in the ass, Katara pointed out, remembering that conversation quite vividly. I said that was my opinion, Princess, she replied. I also said that not everything could be fixed with a hug. She smiled. I never said that this wasn't one of them. Aang looked around and saw his friends gathering around him. I promise I'll find Appa as fast as I can, he told them as he took his staff from Toph. I just really need to do this. See ya in the big city, Sokka told him. Say hi to that big fuzzball for me, Toph said, punching him in the arm. I hope you'll find him soon, Ino said. Good luck, Choji told him. Try not to get lost, it'd be too troublesome to go and look for you, Shikamaru said. Don't be afraid to ask us for help when we get there, Asuma told him. It never hurt to ask for help. You'll find him, Aang, Katara said. I know, he replied. Thank you, Katara. He opened up his glider and was ready to take off. You ready, Momo? He asked the lemur, who was also ready to take off. They flew up and away to Ba Sing Se with everyone waving them goodbye. As Sokka double-checked the contents of his stuff, Suki walked up to him. Sokka, it's been really great to see you again, she said. Whoa, hold on, he said as he stood up. Why does it sound like you're saying goodbye? I came along because I wanted to make sure you got through the Serpent's Pass safely, she explained. But now I need to get back to the other Kyoshi warriors. So you came along to protect me? He asked, completely surprised. Listen, she said, her face blushing. I'm really sorry about last night, and this morning. We were saying things and sparring. I just got carried away and before I knew it, whatever she was going to say next stopped when Sokka kissed her on the lips, catching her off guard. You talk too much, he told her before kissing her again. This time she returned it. Akela watched the two with satisfaction. Aang and Momo flew towards the outer wall of Ba Sing Se. When they reached the wall, they flew upwards, passing clouds along the way. He landed on the top of the wall with Momo on his shoulder. He was about to take off again when he saw something that shocked him. Slowly but surely, a gigantic drill with the emblem of the Fire Nation was making its way towards the wall. Aang knew if the drill wasn't stopped, it would penetrate the wall easily. Sorry, Momo, he told the lemur. Appa's going to have to wait. Chapter 13, Breaking and Entering. Location Ba Sing Se. The drill made its way towards the outer wall, the sides protected by Fire Nation tanks. The sections collapsed and elongated, like a caterpillar or a snake moving. As it moved, it was stabilized by metal poles jutting out into the ground. As the drill got closer to the wall, the command tower rose, allowing those inside a better view. Inside the tower sat the princess of the Fire Nation as well as her two friends. After returning the tank train to War Minister Qin and Yu Dao, he asked them to follow him to a Fire Nation base near Ba Sing Se. When they arrived, he revealed the drill to them. And now they were here. This drill is a feat of scientific ingenuity and raw destructive power, War Minister Qin stated. Once it tunnels through the wall, our troops will storm their city. The Earth Kingdom will finally fall, and you can claim Ba Sing Se in the name of your father. No, I won't, Azula said. I will claim it in the name of the Fire Nation. It was one of the things Naruto had beaten into her, almost literally. Never honor someone who has never fought a battle. As you wish, princess. But still, nothing can stop us. What about those muscular guys down there? Asked Ty Lee as she looked through the scope. Earthbenders were hopping into trenches, getting ready for a fight. Please, the war minister said, sounding quite offended. The drill's metal shell is impervious to any earthbending attack. He tapped the scope to emphasize his point, surprising the acrobat. Oh, I'm sure it is War Minister Chin, Azula told him. But just to be on the safe side, Mai and Ty Lee, take the earthbenders out. Mai stopped twirling her knife. Finally, something to do, she said as she got out of the chair. She had been bored ever since they got the drill. Both she and Ty Lee left the tower without saying a word. Katara and the rest made their way towards Ba Sing Se. They had gotten closer when Aang and Momo flew back to them. Aang, what are you doing here? Katara asked him, surprised. I thought you were looking for Appa. I was, he replied. But something stopped me, something big. They were confused by his words, so he just motioned them all to follow him. They quickly made their way to the outer wall. Both Toph and Aang bent the rock underneath them to start sliding up the wall, almost like an elevator. So, what's so big that Appa has to wait? Sokka asked him. They had almost reached the top of the wall when they saw the drill. That, the air nomad stated. Shikamaru just looked at it. Well, it certainly is big, he said. I think that's an understatement, Shikamaru Asuma said. The damn thing was huge. They reached the top of the wall and climbed over to the battlement. We made it to Ba Sing Se and we're still not safe, Aang said as she held her baby. No one is. Aang had a brief look of thought before a voice spoke out. What are you people doing here? A nearby soldier asked, getting their attention. Civilians aren't allowed on the wall. Aang stepped forward. I'm the Avatar, he announced to them. Take me to whoever's in charge. Well, what do you know? Shia said. Our little monk is actually trying to grow a pair. You should be so proud, she told Katara with a grin. Shuya, you shouldn't say stuff like that, Katara told her while blushing. It would imply things that weren't true, at least, not yet. I can say what I want. Speaking of which, she looked at the guards. Hey! If you don't want civilians up here, then you might want to consider getting these people off of it and into the city. She pointed to Tan and his family. We've got a couple here who just became parents. The guards got the point immediately. They escorted the family away from the wall while everyone else went to the person in charge, who was soon revealed to be a general named Sung. It is an honor to welcome you to the outer wall, young Avatar, he said. But your help is not needed. Not needed? Aang asked, surprised by the man's attitude. He had never been so blatantly refused before. Not needed, the general replied, enunciating both words. I have the situation under control. I assure you, the Fire Nation cannot penetrate this wall. He got up from his desk and led them out to look at the drill. Many have tried to break through it, but none have succeeded. I know one way to break through, Shikamaru whispered to Ino. All we'd have to is to get Choji angry. That's not funny, Shikamaru, she replied. It was always in their best interest to never let Choji get angry. Once he did, there was no stopping him, not without some injuries. What about the Dragon of the West? Toph asked the general. He got in. That had been the only kind of talk in her home when it happened. The general faltered slightly, recognizing the truth of her words. Well, technically yes, he admitted. But he was quickly expunged. Nevertheless, that's why the city's named Ba Sing Se. It's the impenetrable city. They don't call it Na Sing Se. He laughed at his own joke. That means penetrable city, he explained when he realized that no one was laughing with him. Probably should have called the penetrable city, Asuma stated. Excuse me? He asked, unsure of what the foreigner meant. Nothing's impenetrable, Shikamaru clarified. A shinobi knew that lesson quite well. All they had to do was find one way in. That was it. This city is, the general told them, certain of what he said. And so, you are not needed. Thanks for the tour, Toph said. But we still got the drill problem. Not for long, he told her. To stop it, I've sent an elite platoon of earthbenders called the Terra Team. They were some of the best troops the outer wall had to offer. That's a good group name, very catchy, Sokka commented. You know, we really need a good group name, he thought. They watched as the Terra team moved to attack. They bent the earth to send one of the tanks skywards so they could get through. Ready? Attack! Ordered the team leader. They split off into groups and bent the earth to jet out columns to stop the drill from moving. It didn't work as the sections moved forward, destroying the columns. It showered the team with rocks. After being momentarily distracted, the team bent up shields of stone to avoid a barrage of knives. The knives had been thrown by Mai, who was sliding the side of the drill with Ty Lee. The acrobat leapt off the drill and then leapt into the air in a high front flip to avoid a rock line. She landed behind one of the soldiers. After dodging a few of his attacks, she hit points on his body, making him collapse. She flipped over to land in the middle of the rest of the team, and taking them effortlessly. Soon enough, she was surrounded by the fallen Terra team. We're doomed! General Sung wailed after watching the events through a telescope. Thanks for stating the obvious, Shikamaru drawled. Sokka smacked the general on the cheek. Get a hold of yourself, man, he ordered. Now was not the time to panic. You're right, I'm sorry, he apologized while rubbing his cheek. Maybe you'd like the Avatar's help now? Toph asked pointedly. He stood in front of the airbender. Yes, please, he said, sounding like a chastised child. Then I suggest you leave and let the actual professionals do their jobs, Asuma told him. Nearby soldiers knew what he meant. They escorted General Sung away. He must have been one of those people who bought his rank instead of earning it, the Konoha shinobi thought in disgust. Good riddance to a useless rockhead, Shia said. How much do you want to bet he slept with someone to get his position? Oh, thanks for that, Shia, Ino told her, restraining the urge to gag. Now I've got an image of that general in bed. And that was an image that she didn't want or need. You're welcome. They all looked at the oncoming drill, watching it steadily approach. So the question is, how are we going to stop that thing? Aang asked. Then he and Katara looked at Sokka, making everyone else look at him. He noticed the looks. Why are you looking at me? You're the idea guy, the air nomad told him. Every time they needed a plan, he was the one who came up with it. He scowled at the implications. So I'm the only one who can ever come up with a plan? That's a lot of pressure. And also the complaining guy, Katara added. That part one don't mind, he admitted. It was a good way to get rid of some stress. And they had certainly gotten some stress over the past few months. Ladies, could we focus back on the problem here? Shia asked. Hey, I'm not a lady, Aang protested. He was a man, not a lady. The problem, little Ms. Arrowhead, she said pointedly, looking at the drill coming towards the outer wall. We need to focus on the problem. So, Mr. Lee and Mr. Mushy is it? A ticket lady asked the two of them as she looked at their passports. The two of them had gotten off the ferry without any problems. Now, they were trying to get into the city itself. It's pronounced Mushy, Iroh corrected her. You telling me how to do my job? She asked with a frown that was on its way to annoyed. No, he assured her as he walked up to her booth. But may I just say you're like a flower in bloom. Your beauty is intoxicating. He was laying it on thick. The lady was by no means beautiful, but she ate up every word he said. You're pretty easy on the eyes yourself, handsome. She made a meowing sound. Welcome to Ba Sing Se. She stamped the passports. Iroh took the passports and turned back to Zuko, who had a hand over his face. I'm going to forget I saw that, he told his uncle, swiping his passport from his hands. The last thing he wanted to see was his uncle flirting. It just didn't sit right with him. They walked beyond the ticket lady and into the station. Unbeknownst to them, they were being watched. I think Lee would make a good freedom fighter, Jet said as he watched from the line. He's just trying to find his way in the world. Like us. You don't know anything about him, Jet, Smellerby warned him. I know he didn't get that scar from a waterbender, he told her with ease. Besides, I thought we were going straight now. We are, and the new freedom fighters could use a guy like Lee. What do you think, Longshot? He asked the ever-silent archer, who just looked at Jet and blinked once. I can respect that, he said. The Terra team had been moved back onto the wall and into a nearby infirmary. Before they decided to go up against the drill, Katara decided to see if she could help heal them. What's wrong with him? General Sung asked her. He had followed the group to the infirmary and was now looking at the wounded soldiers. He doesn't look injured. His chi is blocked, Katara told him as she tried to heal the soldier. Who did this to you? She asked him. 2 girls ambushed us, he told her. One of them hit with a couple of quick jabs and suddenly I couldn't earthbend and I could barely move. And then she cartwheeled away. It was that last part that got Katara's attention, which in turn made her realize who the attacker was. Ty Lee, she said, remembering the acrobat. She doesn't look dangerous, but she knows the human body and its weak points. It's like she takes you down from the inside. But where she is, the Fire Nation princess is, Shikamaru said. And where the Fire Nation princess is, Naruto is, Choji finished up, realizing where his friend was going. So, we have an opportunity here, Ino said. If they followed the acrobat back to Azula, they would find Naruto. Indeed we do, Asuma agreed. Huh? What are you guys talking about? I'm really confused here, Shia said with a puzzled expression. Same here, Toph said, raising her hand and waving it slightly. She knew who Naruto was, like she was ever going to forget what happened at Tuzin, but she failed to follow the logic of the shinobi. They're saying that neither Azula nor Naruto know we're here, Sokka explained. And because of that, they have an opportunity. Should they be able to get aboard the drill, they'd have an opportunity to take Naruto. But I see a second opportunity. What's that? She asked. She had no idea what they were all talking about. If they can get aboard, Team Asuma could track down Azula and capture her. If they could do that, Ino can get into Azula's mind and extract information on what the Fire Nation is planning, he explained. Then he frowned. The only reason I can think of for them not to explain this one is because they want to focus on Naruto and hope to use us stopping the drill so they can find him. Team Asuma just looked at him. He is good, Ino finally said, impressed by what she heard him say. Yeah, Shikamaru agreed. It's troublesome, but I can see why Naruto thinks he is the most dangerous person in the group. The tribesman had a mind that could match any of the Nara clan, but he wasn't even lazy. Sokka's ego puffed up a little bit while Aang's, Katara's, and Toph's egos deflated. Shia saw their looks. Really, you guys thought you were the most dangerous? She asked them all. Well, kinda, Aang replied. I mean, I am the Avatar. That usually made people either run in fear or bow their heads in respect. There was also attacking on sight, but that was mostly the Fire Nation. So, it didn't really count. She scoffed. You know, the first time I saw your group, I didn't see the Avatar, his bending teachers and Sokka. I saw a Bender, she pointed to Aang, Bender, she pointed to Katara, Bender, she pointed at Toph, and non-Bender, she pointed to Sokka. In other words, predictable, 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 and unpredictable. She pointed again, in the same order. How are we predictable? Asked Katara, a little offended. She had worked hard to get to where she was with her bending and this girl was just waving it off like it was nothing. You guys rely on your bending and weapons that can be used in tandem with bending. He doesn't, she explained, again pointing at Sokka. The Fire Nation shouldn't fear the Avatar, the master of the 4 elements. They should fear Sokka, the master strategist and weapons expert. You know, when she says like that, she's got a point, Asuma said. If the Fire Nation was smart, they would try to capture Sokka, not Aang. If they managed to capture the tribesman and convert him to their cause, he had no doubt that the war would end quickly in the Fire Nation's favor. So Mr. Man with the plan, Toph said to Sokka, acting like the past conversation didn't even happen. What are we going to do? We're going to do the same thing Ty Lee did, he replied. We'll take it out from the inside by hitting its pressure points. Alright, then let's get going, Shia said. You're staying here, he told her, turning his eyes onto her. I don't trust you. Wow. You give a guy a compliment, and he responds by telling you that you're not trusted. She didn't sound offended. Everyone else probably thought she was. I'm sorry, Shia. But the truth is we don't know you. She was practically a newcomer. But this would be a perfect chance to prove my abilities to the group, she argued. If she did that, they would be able to accept her more easily. Sokka, you're being paranoid again, Katara told him. By the spirits, couldn't he keep it in check for once in his life? Yeah, she's already part of the group, Aang said in support. There's no need for you to be paranoid. The two of you seem to forget that the last time you told me to stop being paranoid, we practically turned a potential massacre inside a Fire Nation colony into a battle that ended in an Earth Kingdom massacre, he said, silencing them. He turned back to Shia and looked her in the eyes. But maybe I am being too paranoid, so I'll rein it in. Does that mean I'm joining you in the drill? She asked, hopeful for the chance to help them. Yes. She grinned, happy that she was accepted. You gotta learn how to trust people, Aishur. He frowned. I'm going to ignore that insult. He turned to the rest. We need to get down to the ground. Leave that to me and Aang, Toph said. They were brought down the same way they had come up. The soldiers on the outer wall kept large slabs of rock for just that purpose. Once they made it to the ground, they got into a trench so that the drill couldn't see them. Toph, can you give us some cover? Asuma asked the blind earthbender.